Trucker Yoga. She's going to give us tips on charting practical milestones and navigating roadblocks that prevent success. Hope, good morning to you.
Good morning, Tim, and happy holidays and Merry Christmas to everyone listening.
Yes, thank you. Right back at you. Right back to you as well. I know you're probably about ready now, aren't you? Or do you still have a few things to do yet?
I'm really close. I've been trying to be a little bit better in the last couple of years. In some past years, I hate to admit, I have waited till the very last minute, and that has not done me well. So I have tried to improve that part of my life.
Yeah, that kind of gets you into the mix of the rat race, doesn't it?
It does. And it kind of takes away a little bit of the holiday spirit. It takes away a little bit of your focus because you're scrambling. And then, I don't know about you, I kind of start feeling that I get this like anxiety of just like getting things and doing things. And I'm like, why am I even doing this? Why am I even, purchasing that or doing? It's like, this is not what this is about. And so I try to be a little bit more prepared.
Well, that's great. Preparedness, it goes a long way. And what's going to go a long way this morning are your tips that you have for us.
Yes, and I think, I love this time of year, Tim, for so many reasons. One, it's the holidays, and it kind of brings your focus back to maybe what's important or shifts your focus to things that you don't normally think about. Things like peace and joy and happiness, and although those might be cliche, they still have a relevant place in the world and in our lives and in our communities. But even more importantly, on a personal level, it's a great time to start reflecting on the year past and also what you want in the next coming year. Now, I'm not a huge fan of New Year's resolutions, mainly for the fact that a lot of people, when we're setting them, it's more of like a blanket statement, like I'm going to lose weight, or I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week, or I'm going to go on a diet. It's a very blanket, very unpersonalized, no connection style statement. It's almost like, well, this is what people say at this time of year, so this is what I'm going to say. Mm-hmm. And the problem with that is there's no connection, there's no drive, there's no grit put into that promise to yourself. And I noticed for me many years ago that I was saying these things to myself out loud, and then I was letting myself down. And the message I was giving myself was, I never follow through on the things that I want in life. And I just kept repeating this cycle in my health, in my family life, in my fitness. And I was like, this is not how this is supposed to be. Something has to change. And what has to change is really our approach towards the end of the year and our insight and foresight into why it is we say what we want and how we're going to get there. So first things first, around this time of year, I always like to take a little bit of time to just kind of reflect on this past year. And we can't figure out where we're going to go and the tools that we need to get there if we don't really recognize where we are right now, and sometimes even more importantly, how we got here. And so whether we're in a good place in our life and maybe we're not such a good place in our life, it doesn't really matter. It's the reflection of what are the steps that I got here with? What are the tools that I used or didn't use? Is this a cycle or a habit that keeps repeating itself? And the probably most important piece, Tim, is, do I want to change? One of the things I've discovered in working with thousands of different people, mainly on the health and fitness side over the last 20 years, is sometimes people don't really want to change. They don't really want to improve their health. They think they do, but they're doing it for the wrong reasons. They were doing it because their spouse wants them to, or they're doing it because all their friends are, and there has to be an internal driver. There has to be something inside that's saying, I want this goal. So for those of you listening, first things first, take the next day or so and just kind of reflect on what's happened in the last 12 months. This is not a place for you to get emotionally involved and pissed off and, oh, my sister-in-law, or, oh, this person did this to me. That's not what I want you to do. What I want you to do is look at the past 12 months kind of through a pane of glass. that you can't go through the glass. They can't hear you. You can't get emotionally involved. You can't poke fun, or you can't do any of that. This is just an observation. And once we have that observation and we get to December 19th, which is today, the next step is what do I want in the next year? How do I establish that goal? That's always kind of the part people get stuck on. Well, there is a way to do that. And some people use the SMART goal method, which is when we go specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. But I actually like the PACT way to start a goal, and that is first purposeful. So why am I starting this? What do I want? What is it going to get me? So if you want to improve your health, you got to attach a why to it. You have to attach a purpose to it. Is it because you have grandkids now and you want to be able to go to the park with them? Is it because maybe you have a new partner and you want to be at your best for them? Is it because you're sick and tired of being sick and tired? You're sick and tired of being the brunt of people's jokes indirectly. You've been this way your whole life and you don't want to be this way anymore. But you have to find purpose in what it is that you're setting for yourself. So that's the first step. The second step is actionable. And actionable means you have to be able to kind of act it out, seek it out, put some movement to it. So how is it that you are going to execute this? What are the steps that you have to take in order to make this happen? This is a piece a lot of people forget because we like to put things out there in theory. Some people like to write a whole journal about them. Some people like to sit by the fire and talk about them. And then they wake up the next day and it's like, oh, crap, now I actually have to do it. And so how am I going to execute that action? How am I going to make this happen? And in this particular piece, and maybe you've been in this position before, Tim, in this particular piece, it does have to be realistic. It does have to be attainable. And so this is where milestones come in. This is where we're going to set tiny little lily pads for us to leap to every month, every year, every week, however it is that you want to set them. And we have to always keep in the back of our mind, how am I going to measure that? How am I going to track it? How am I going to stay constant with it? And so this is where I am a big fan of, I like to kind of map it out backwards. So if you're listening and you're like, I want to lose weight, I assure you, I bet your goal really isn't so much about weight loss as it is what the weight loss is going to give you. It's going to give you your life back. It's going to give you the freedom to go out and go dancing, or go out and maybe you're going to go on a trip with your spouse, be more intimate with your partner. Whatever it is, it's not really about the weight loss, but the weight loss is how you're going to track you getting that goal. So if you're looking at your life and you're like, man, I'm 50 pounds overweight. Well, we can't lose 50 pounds in a month. That's not healthy. That's not good for you. And you're probably going to yo-yo back the other way. And you're probably going to have done it in all the wrong ways. And so if we work backwards over the course of 12 months, well, maybe you're going to lose 8 pounds a month. Now that's 2 pounds a week. That's really realistic. We can track that. We can take action on that. We can have a continuous effort towards that. That's the PACT process. And so what's your goal? What's the purpose behind it? That's the P. How are you going to take action on it? That's the A. How can you be continuous with it? That's the habit part. That's the C. And then how are you going to track it? How are you going to measure it? That's the T. And we want to work backwards, not forwards. We want to set the goal and then work backwards from there until we get to where we are right now.
All right. Very practical. Our number is 615-292-6366 if you have a question for Hope. And you can submit that question via email as well if it's easier for you at tim@radionemo.com. We'll be back on the other side of these messages.
Tim Ridley along with Hope Zvara on the Tim Ridley Show.
Navigating roadblocks that prevent success. I want to circle back to something you said earlier, Hope, that a person needs to want. They have to want to, to lose weight or whatever the case is. And it's just like my grandmother had some just very wise sayings, and some of them I didn't understand as a kid, but as I got older, I understood. But she used to say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And that goes to say that if a person, you can offer all the help you want, but if a person doesn't want the help, or they can make goals, but if they don't really want to reach those goals, there's nothing that you could do. I mean, they're going to have to want it from deep within.
Absolutely. I heard people when I first started my business saying, you have to want it. And I was like, well, of course I want it. What are you talking about? And I was like, oh, then I get it. You have to want it. Like, this has to be something in you that is just a driving force, not an external, an internal. And yeah, you have to be the one that is like ready to drink the water. You have to be the one that's like, I think I'm thirsty now and I'm going to start drinking more consistently. And what is that thing? So kind of leading on what we discussed with previously before the break, the other piece to this is you can't go after 20 different things. So what is the one thing that maybe you want to put some focus into for the next year? Is that your health and your fitness? Is that your relationship? Is that your business, your professional life? And although we're always achieving things, we're always doing things in different categories of our lives, and oftentimes they're all connected, I find that I got to kind of focus on one thing. And what I recognize is when I get that one thing kind of in order, other things become easier. Especially around health and mental health and fitness, I find the more on point I am with my life, the more healthy I am in my physical body, the more other things in my life seem to fall into place. The more I'm less scattered in my business, the more I'm more focused with my time with my kids. But when I'm not feeling good in my physical being, man, I start to let other things kind of slide away and become deprioritized, and then nobody benefits. Then nothing goes well. And so that reflection part is super important, because sometimes we don't notice these things are going on, and how can we change something that we don't even recognize exists?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It starts with that. And one of the things I know you've noticed too in what you do, Hope, is that as you're talking about this morning, that sometimes we can set ourselves up for failure without realizing it by setting goals that we know that we're not going to be able to reach. So it goes back to being practical, setting practical goals and keeping navigating these roadblocks that might prevent us from being successful at what we want to do.
Absolutely. And so that big goal that you maybe have set for yourself, this is why breaking it down to small, more attainable goals, whether it's on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, and then checking in with yourself regularly is really important for a couple of reasons. One, sometimes that big goal feels so far away and so big, it almost feels unachievable. It's like, there's no way I'm ever going to be able to do that. I want to buy a house. I need to save $20,000 for a down payment, or 50 or whatever it is. There's no way I'm going to be able to ever do that. And so there's a part of our brain that's already saying, don't even try. Well, what's the point? Like, you're going to fail anyways. There's like this internal conversation that's going on in many of us that we're actually giving up before we even start. And a lot of times, part of that reasoning is because that thing that we say we want feels too big and we feel too small. We feel inequipped. We feel like we don't have the right tools. And so part of that conversation, I would bet for a lot of people listening, is why even start? Why even do that? I think that's why a lot of people during the holidays are like, I'll go on a diet after the holidays. I'll go to the gym after the holidays. It's like, why though? Why can't you try to eat a little healthier right now? What's the deal? One party? Like, really? Why can't you get out and go for a walk? I don't understand. Is there no sidewalk today? Is it all closed across America? Like, I don't know. Why is that? And I believe people are pushing those things off because they don't feel like they can actually do it. Deep down, they don't believe that they can achieve that goal. And if part of that reason is because it's just too gosh darn big, well, my golly, let's break that down into tiny little bite-sized pieces and build up some confidence, build up some momentum, get some action under our belt so that we can look back in a few weeks and go, heck, look what I just did. Look what I just accomplished. Mm-hmm. Oh, my gosh, I have never, ever done this, and here I am doing it. And the way to build that momentum and reach those milestones is to break things down into little pieces. You know, I always joke because my grandma really did tell me, Hope, you need to chew your food thoroughly. You need to chew it 25 times. And I was like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Well, I think there's a reason because she didn't want us to choke. She wanted us to be able to fully digest her food. I didn't see the purpose of that tiny little step of chewing your food instead of just swallowing it whole. But, man, there is a lot of purpose behind that. And so let's break those goals down. Let's create some action steps around that, something that you can show up to. Let's be realistic. You got to be honest. If you are like, man, I don't think that I can do blank, you know, every single day, then don't set it as a goal for every single day. Set it as a goal for every other day or 3 days a week. The idea behind that, setting realistic, achievable goals, is we're trying to trick our brain into seeing the accomplishment that we're good at this, that we follow through and we show up. And we build momentum off of that, and we build some momentum to get to that next milestone faster than the first time. And we're like, man, I don't want to stop now. I'm good at this. I'm achieving this. I feel great. And so sometimes the person that's holding us back is actually not our spouse. It's not our ex-husband or wife. It's not our kids. It's not our boss. It's not our in-laws. It's actually ourselves. And one of the things I've discovered, Tim, is sometimes it's because we're so scared of success. We're scared of what our life will be like when we have this thing. Even though we don't like it right now, it's all we've known. A mentor said to me a long time ago, he told me a story about a cat on a nail. And he said a cat was meowing in the backyard, and the neighbor looks over the fence and is like, why is your cat meowing? And the owner of the cat said, well, he's sitting on a nail. And the guy looking over the fence said, well, why doesn't he just get off of it? And the owner kind of snickered and said, well, it doesn't hurt that bad. Some of you are on nails right now, and it doesn't hurt that bad. And it doesn't hurt that bad because you haven't known anything else. You've really become accustomed to that pain and discomfort. Well, today is the day to get off that dang nail. Get off the nail and start to do something different. Look at life from a different perspective. Reflect back on this past year and say, do I want what I say I want? Because no one's going to lead me to the water, and no one's going to make me drink either. I can find the water myself, and I can start drinking. And then, heck, guess what? You can turn around, and you can start helping other people do the same. Man, there's nothing better than being able to extend a hand out to somebody else to solidify the progress that you've made yourself.
Absolutely. We have just a couple of minutes. I want to share this success story that came in as you were talking via email, and then we'll get information from you how our listeners can find out more about you and contact you. But anyway, just summarize this email. He wants to thank you for coming on with this topic. Every year he sets a goal to lose the weight that he needs to lose. He says, I'm extremely overweight. It seems like it's unattainable, but I set the goal anyway, and I end up failing not even halfway through the year. And I've done this year over year over year, but you have given me you've given me the knowledge that I just need to just do a little bit at a time, and I can make that happen. So again, thank you, Hope, for coming on and sharing this with us.
Absolutely. And to the person that wrote in, it's great to have that big goal for the end of 2024, but remember, work backwards. Break it into tiny little pieces and then ask yourself, how can I achieve this little piece? And before you know it, You'll be further along than you ever have in years past, and you get to reap the benefits. You and your loved ones and the people around you, and I assure you, you're going to look back and you're like, I am never going to sit on that nail ever again.
Absolutely. Well, tell our listeners how they can find out more about what you have to offer and how to contact you.
Sure thing. If you're ready to take that next step and make some small, simple changes in your life, you can hop on over to mothertruckeryoga.com. You can find us on social. We have a great book to get you started, Trucking Yoga, Simple Fitness for the Long Haul. More than 60 exercises. You can literally just open it up and go, hey, I can do that right in the cab of your truck. If you want to take it a little bit further with us, we have a great app. You can find us in the App Store, and you can start moving along together with us as well. But more importantly, make sure you set those goals for yourself and make sure you look back at the year and what you've accomplished, because you might be surprised at how far you've come already.
Absolutely. Hope, thanks so much. We certainly appreciate you, and Merry Christmas to you and your family, and Happy New Year.
Same thing to you, Tim. See you soon.
All right. And we'll see you back